everybody. Okay, today I am here to talk about stories. There are many ways in which stories play roles in our lives, and I really got to thinking about this the other day. I found myself on social media watching a guy I didn't know tell me a story about two people I didn't know, and I was so enthralled in listening to this guy tell this story because of the way in which he presented it. He was alive and passionate and changed his voice for each time he would tell the story. And this reminds me of all the times as a kid when you would get really into somebody reading you a story because they would play the characters up. And it just shows that we have been so heavily influenced by storytelling and by stories. And it's not just the stories we're hearing or absorbing from other people, it's the stories we're telling ourselves. And it's the stories that we repeat to ourselves over and over again. Whether those are stories that we have come up with based on trauma or based on experiences that we're not necessarily proud of ourselves about, or things that we focus on that are negative about ourselves. Sometimes those negative stories come from something someone else told us. So if somebody told you that you were weird or awkward at a party, you then write that story. And if that's the story you're playing over and over and over again, that's how you're going to perceive yourself. And if you continue to perceive yourself that way, people are going to feel that. The stories you're telling yourselves is how you're going to show up in the world, because we embody a certain energy based on what we're telling ourselves. So if I tell myself, I am capable of being a messenger of hope and peace, I'll more often show up in that space. And that's a story I want to tell myself more. But I still, just like everyone else, get caught up in running with stories that aren't productive for my betterment or for the way I want to show up in the world. For example, a story I often say to myself is, you can't put yourself in this situation because you'll probably be triggered because you're not fully healed. And how will I know if I can't put myself in that situation? And I keep telling this story so I would say no to things that could be amazing opportunities. And in 2023, it was a really big chance for me to start saying yes to things that terrified me, like going and giving a speech. One of the stories I told myself is, I'm not good at public speaking because I have too much anxiety and I'll have a panic attack on stage. Guess who didn't have a panic attack on stage? There's no need to keep carrying on with these negative stories that we've been telling ourselves. And it's a perfect chance for us to rewrite our own stories, to be the author and editor of the stories we're telling ourselves over and over again. And so this takes a level of mindfulness to pay attention to what are the stories we're telling ourselves all day long? And then what are the stories we're engaging with, whether we're watching it on social media or watching it on TV, we're engaging with it in conversation, and how much of those stories are we absorbing and internalizing? It takes a level of mindfulness to understand how those stories then play out into the world. And I don't want to play small anymore. I don't want to carry the story that I should play small anymore. I don't want anyone to carry the story that they should play small anymore. And the only way we rewrite our stories is to go out and do the things that terrify us and that make us feel like, ooh, I don't know if this is something that I've done before or that I even know that I'm comfortable doing. How do you know unless you try it? And it's like the anxiety conversation I've had a million times. It's the only way to make yourself feel more comfortable with things that scare you is to do them more often and build that confidence in yourself. And so I'm all about building confident stories for myself and for others in 2024. And so I would just like to ask y'all, what stories are you telling yourself? One more story before I'm done. I haven't told the internet this, and I think this is a beautiful time too. I've started sending query letters for my book, and I'm feeling like it's ready to be out in the world, and I am looking for representation. And something about sending query letters is you're gonna get a lot of no's. You're gonna get no after no, and it's a rejection. And if I run with the story of, oh, this person didn't want to tell my story, it's not good enough, that will shut me down. But if you ask any author, I can garnished wager, whatever the right phrase is, that everyone has a story of them having to send out their book to dozens, if not hundreds of people before they got their one yes. You only need one yes. And so recently, somebody had asked me for my first 15 pages. I was very excited. I edited my pages and I sent it to them. High hopes. And they sent back and said, you know what? I don't feel the same passion that I want to feel to say yes to your project. So I'm going to go ahead and say no, but please keep sending your book out. I had the very first thought in my mind was, wonder if I should edit my first 15 pages. And then, as I sat with that thought longer, I realized that would be me editing my story that I have spent years processing and digesting and really working to figure out how to tell because of one person's feedback. And it made me realize how easy it is for us to try to edit ourselves based on one person's feedback. And I decided, no, I'm not editing my story because of that, because I will just keep putting it out there, and one person is going to say, you know what? I love that story. I love the way you told that story, and I can't wait to help you bring that story out into the world. That's the kind of faith I want us all to have in ourselves and what we represent into the world, because all of our lives are our stories, and our story impacts others. And whether or not it's a positive or a negative impact is very much so determined on us and how self-aware we are to how we are influencing the people around us. But it's still our stories to tell. And the more that you actually put that thought into, how do I want to tell my story, and my story is worthy of being heard, that's what leads to positive impact. And I hope very soon that you guys will be reading my story in full book form. It's going to happen. I don't just hope, I know. So thank y'all for always being such a huge part of my story, such a big support of my story. And I will be excited to come and share more and more of it with y'all. Okay, love you, bye.